Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ag View Pitch and the next Dad's Wisdom. We're lucky enough to have with us Tom Brink here today, and he is in West Michigan. Caledonia is the town, and it is in the Grand Rapids area is kind of where it's at. So, Tom, welcome. It's awesome to have you here. I had the pleasure of getting to work with your family here a week or so ago. Got a chance to meet you. Got a chance to meet your boys. I was so impressed with your boys. I told you that when I saw you. I said you should be so proud of the knowledge, the skill set that you've helped them build and that type of thing. And so I'm super excited to have this Dad's Wisdom conversation with you today. So Tom, go ahead first and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, Chris, appreciate the invite and the invitation, so yeah, it's good to be here, and it was good to see you a week ago and get acquainted some more. So I'm a lifelong farmer, primarily a farmer. We do some other things also. However, I'm 63 years old, married, 3 children, 2 boys and a daughter. Wife's name is Cheryl. She's just across the room from me here today. She's a business partner, but life's been good for us. Agriculture is good. We enjoy what we do. Michigan is a little bit of a off the map, I guess, for some of you that are listening today. We're not in the grain belt or anything else, but yet it's a very diverse state for business. We're only second to California in crop diversity, and lots of things are grown here: fruits, vegetables, grains. Livestock is huge. We're on the tip of Allegan County. Allegan County, I think, is the number 1 or 2. Allegan and Ottawa are side-by-side counties, number 1 and 2 in the state for revenue in agriculture. So we're in a good spot. Blessed to be here, and I don't call it lucky. We're just blessed to be where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what we all hope for and all strive for, right? Talk a little bit about your getting going in farming and your family, and the influence that maybe your parents had on you, and some of the lessons that you learned and things as you were growing up as a kid.
Well, I was born and raised on a farm. Good parents, good home, 4 sisters and a brother. Only worked off the farm 1 week in my life when I picked blueberries unsuccessfully at 8 years old. So was on my dad's foot.
You couldn't hold the job, huh?
Oh, just wanted to be right back home. But anyway, stayed right with my dad, ran on his heels the whole time. He was a good businessman, good farmer, good family man. So we got a lot of good heritage. Got in business on my own alongside my dad with a livestock operation at 17 years old. We've had cattle, I guess, my whole life ever since then, really starting at 13 years old. Some as far as boutique, and then a major feed yard also along the way, and but primarily grain. We have some other business ventures that we've started and sold some companies along the way also, but we still wear the farmer hat, and much of what we do is based around agriculture. So.
Is there a key lesson that you can think of that your dad taught you, or two, and a couple of things that, like, this is something that my dad instilled into me that I carry yet today?
Yeah, just steady, hard work, treat people right, do the best you can to keep things in good order, which he always did. Probably, he's primarily, I would say, conservative in his business principles, but no, just very steady, enjoyed his peers. Can remember as a child, he always did a lot of or at least some visiting, took time for the neighbors, he was a grain dealer also. So we had some really good ties that helped us grow the farm over the years. So he had a lot of good contacts, a lot of good customers, like you say.
Mhm.
Just the lessons of do a good job. He always said about marketing, he said, if we can do all what we need to do, but he always had to just trust the good Lord for the instinct of when to sell. And I would say he was a quality marketer too. Didn't get everything just right, but overall, we always tried to grow products that were valuable and desirable. And so yeah, a lot, too many lessons to really to even recount, I guess, but I'm very thankful for the heritage.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what we all hope for and hopefully get blessed with. And with that said too, talk a little bit about, your life then when you started farming, when you got married and bring your wife into this too, because I think a lot of times, we have our business partners and our spouse, whether they're involved in the operation actively or not, they get to listen to us when we come home frustrated or happy or whatever,
Yeah.
and they are a big part of how we make our success and the family and stuff. So talk a little bit about your experiences there, any lessons or any thoughts, wisdom there.
So yeah, just getting started. Right out of high school, I opted not to do college. Um, my dad was my professor, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and wasn't I think we talked, Chris. High school and grade school wasn't our favorite. We knew where we wanted to be,
Yep.
but nothing against a solid education. That's not what I'm saying. It just for myself didn't opt to do that. Had opportunities to start right in after high school. Um, didn't didn't meet my wife till I think I was 24. Um, she's a girl met through my brother-in-law that I was good friends with, and that all came together just in I guess, a very providential way. Started dating, and within a year we were married. And she's just a great business partner. Works in the office yet a day a week at the farm, and just been a real solid part of what we do each and every day. So shortly after, within a year, I think our first son was born, and a year or two later, a daughter, and a few years later, another son. So um, just family's a huge deal. Lots of patience there. When we were young, we worked a lot, worked long hours, just go, 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 go. And it takes a family, in our case, a family unit to do that and be supportive. So
Mm-hmm.
very thankful for that.
Yeah. I was uh, privileged to get to meet your boys and talk a little bit about raising
Mhm.
kids on the farm and how you interacted and how you brought them in, because the one thing I noticed is how passionate and how engaged and how wise they already are at a pretty young age. What did you do as you were raising the kids so that they kind of learn the roles, learn, and have the passion? Because passion doesn't just come, right? It develops. Talk a little bit about
Right. Well, we lived on the farm, right? I was raised, I told you, born and raised. My folks started the farm in 1955. I was a middle child, so there was four girls and two boys. Um, we were fortunate enough to buy that farm from my parents. My dad was and my mom was very direct and um, intentional about how they wanted to do things. They wanted to be wrapped up by the time they were 70. We, Cheryl and I, and my wife, spent. First of all, I would tell you this for your listeners. My dad said, well, you are not coming into this farm or be a partner with us until we see who you marry. And that was advice from his attorney. And I never balked at that, but I knew that was important. So,
it.
and it turned out it was important. But anyway, shortly after we were married, we formed a partnership with my folks um, and grew the farm during that time. Bought my folks out by the time they were 70, just like they wished. So that allowed us to stay on the home farm, which we had bought earlier. But so we raised our kids, our boys, they had the same bedroom I have. And incidentally, Brett's boys, I have 3 grandsons. They are in the same bedroom I lived in. So we're on the third generation, 4th generation there in the same farmhouse that it's just, that's still the home farm, even though it's not. You were at the home farm in Caledonia where the main office is, but it's still the home place, I guess. My parents live a mile from there in a housing development that we built off the edge of the farm in the woods. But anyway, that's been home. So the kids, how did we mentor them? I guess they always worked for us. Our boys never worked anywhere else. Ryan went to Michigan State for 2 years, but Brett stayed right with me, just like I did. Lot of training, I guess, just happened as we went. They seemed to be cut out for agriculture and farming. And so, yeah, I guess to say I'm just very thankful that they enjoy farming, and they are good farmers. They're doing a good job. They've started their own business partnership together called Brink Brothers. The plan is to blend that into the main farm over time here. And we have our estate plan done already where it all gets transferred to them over time through some real good, what we think is a good structure and a good plan. So
awesome. Yeah, it's like I said, it's interesting, I think, for a lot of people to listen because, like I told you before, even we started recording, we've got a lot of people listening that have young kids, and I think for all of us, we desire for at least some of our kids to be interested in agriculture, to carry that legacy on, and to continue to grow the business that we started. And like I said, or like you said, your dad was sort of your professor. Sounds like you're kind of the professor now, and we all take our turns of educating and constantly always being educated ourselves as well. I want to ask you a question that I ask a lot of growers when I very first start working with them, and that is the definition of growth, because for everybody, growth is different. For some, it's, for some it might be spiritual, for some it might be financial, for some it might be more acres, and it might be a combination of things. And I didn't forewarn you of this question, but I kind of want to get your opinion of kind of what your definition of growth is, or kind of where you think people should be thinking in terms of maybe how growth could or should be maybe defined.
I would say it's a combination of things, goals that we probably set for ourselves, and I think anyone that wants to or has a desire to be in agriculture. First, it's a faith walk. You said it's okay to talk about faith, Chris, and it's any business is a faith walk. It's not just farming, but there's a lot of trust in doing what we do and trying to get things right. But the return certainly is very weather related and supply demand, which is all good. We have challenges in agriculture that I wouldn't trade or wouldn't want to be involved with some of the other things that retail people or manufacturing have to face. I think we all know as agriculture people are kind of amazed at how long a season is or how dependent you are on this or that. But business is business, and there's no guarantees, and there doesn't need to be. But it's just staying steady. As far as growing the business, I guess as a young person, you always you want to grow if you can, and we have. Acres is one count, but that's probably not the big thing for us is quality. Sales, we focus on sales. We want to be growing high value crops on our farm. We don't sell any number 2 yellow corn. It's all processed either in silage, high moisture corn, or dry ground corn. We worked hard at developing a relationship. So that's our market. and
Mm-hmm.
our wheat is food grade wheat. It's not. It's and so we have to be fussy with that, and that works well. Our soybeans, as we move on, I'm really not ready to say over the airwaves here what our next move in soybeans are, but it's very specialized. And then the haylage too. It's all right. We have a big forage program, so we've been very focused on staying close to our customer, local. Our freight is almost nothing. We just don't have to truck our products very far. It's very close to livestock. We're blessed to be in a very strong livestock area. So, so that is just kind of formed up, just pretty intentional, trying to find and build those relationships, and that's been good for our farm. So yeah, the spiritual side, I guess, the revenue, we try to grow our gross, and my son Ryan, I guess I'll credit with him putting a target out there for having a profitability grow, and when he said the first time what he wanted to see us do, we've made those goals the last couple of years, and it kind of surprises me. But
Yeah.
we do need to set that out there for, I think, and just set the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, the goals being documented are a huge thing, and being clearly identified. And my takeaway from what you said is the quality, actually probably is the definition of growth. If you can have quality in everything you do, and the diversification you talked about too, I think those are kind of my two takeaways. I think that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I forewarned you the next question. If you could go back and tell your 25-year-old self something, what would it be?
Oh man. This game, it's not a game. This business takes patience. This business takes fortitude. It does. Um, put your goals out there to take care of your family. Do the best you can to be an upstanding person in your community. That takes work.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to shove too fast or too far, or to get too impatient about things. And that's hard to do as a young 25-year-old. You do have to work hard. You have to be aggressive, but don't cut corners when it comes to your ethics. And I'm not trying to say that we got everything perfect over here, but it's just take the long road in that regard. It'll work out. And
Mm-hmm.
the shortcuts, where for short-term gain, probably will be given back if they're
Yeah.
just try to do things right. But set the goals high. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. We live in I think I tell my boys, just all you got to do is, not all you have to do, but just, we live in a world where it's quick fix, it's quick solve, it's a quick goal. Just work hard and behave yourself, and the sky's the limit, really, because unfortunately there's too many people that don't want to take that longer road, and it'll pay. I think there's more opportunity for young kids than ever right now, because for the hardworking, goal set young ones, I just think there's huge opportunities for. I really do. I don't think the good old days are behind us. I really think there's a lot of good things for young folks, because of technology and the opportunities, and out there. Treat people well, and seek out those who can help you, because it's out there.
That's awesome. I like that optimism, because I think always sometimes it's easy to be pessimistic about things, and I think optimism is really the key. I'm going to transition though a little bit differently than that now, and another question I've kind of forewarned you on is, we all make mistakes, right? We all look back and like, I don't know why I did that, or I don't know why I made the decision to do this, or why I made the decision to do that. What was your best mistake? What's one thing that you did that you're like, I can't believe I did that, and it was either costly or it was impactful, it may be in a negative way, but it was a good lesson, and it maybe changed how you looked at things or how you coach others.
Yeah, and I'm probably gonna still get caught a little off guard on answering this. So made a mistake that turned out okay, or avoided a mistake. I guess I think business relationships are really important. Um, as you look at that, or who you're going to consider working with or not, I think at this point, looking back, we probably had an opportunity to do something pretty major that would have catapulted us forward pretty quickly. Um, and at the time, I thought, and it was with our new relationship that I thought could probably be pretty exciting. My dad just said, I just don't think that's an equal yoke for you, and I'm not going to recommend you do that. And for a long time, I guess I thought, not a long time, but I thought, wow, passing up a pretty big opportunity here. But looking back now, I think my dad was right. It took a while for an even better opportunity to come along that was good for us, and many actually. But at the time, as a young man, I thought, boy, that would be pretty neat. Still have a good relationship with that person and so forth. But I sometimes wonder what that would have been if we'd have went ahead and did that. But
Mm-hmm.
was it, do I qualify that as a mistake? I don't know. Maybe I avoided one. But for a while, as a young man, I kind of thought, could have made some hay on that opportunity that it didn't take, I guess, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's interesting too, because one of the things we see with a lot of operations we've worked with over the years is, and I even got this question. I was speaking at an event yesterday, and one of the questions was, how do you work with family versus it's so much easier to work with non-family than family. How do you work with family, and and I think the one thing that as an observation with you guys was that I thought was interesting is that I could tell when you guys interacted or when you interacted with your sons, they listened to you and you listened to them.
Hmm.
And I think so often we hear each other, but we don't listen. So I congratulate you on that. Any comments on that? Because I think that is an issue. And I guarantee you there's people listening right now that feel like, they tell dad this and that, and he's not really listening, or the other way around where dad feels like, I'm trying to tell the kids something and they're just going to have to learn it the hard way because they're not listening. And probably somewhere in the middle sometimes is the right answer too, right? And so sometimes it's
Yeah,
a combination. Any comments on that?
communication is big. It's huge, and those who are blessed with that gift, it's a big deal because something said in a wrong setting can be devastating to yourself or someone else. And so I would say watch your tongue. Have we learned that those lessons maybe through some trial and error like everybody else? I'm sure. Yeah. So I appreciate, what you saw with myself and my boys. I would say, I hope my boys don't get upset when I say this, but when they were young, I mean, starting out and so forth, they're both very competitive, and they were in a bit of a little scrap, and I just stopped. They were both right in front of me. I just said, "Well, you want to make me have a bad day? Just keep doing what you're doing." And to this day, I've never seen them have a confrontation like that again. They they knew I meant it, and they knew it was important, and they are patient with each other. It doesn't mean they don't have good debate and good exchanges and direct. That's all good, but the respect uh, to keep it respectful and watch your tongue is important to me, and I
Mm-hmm.
think they picked up on that. I've never we don't have hollering matches at our we just don't allow it. We don't tolerate it. We don't, and it's just policy, I guess, just out of respect.
Well, that makes a good working environment for employees then too, because I think sometimes what gets missed is that, there's confrontation, and it might not be that big a deal if in fact that's the culture of the family, but that doesn't mean it's the culture of the employee. And sometimes people wonder, how do we do a better job with employee retention and all that kind of stuff? Well, you start by exactly what you just said. It's that respect, it's the care for each other, and it's professionalism. I mean, that's one of the things you guys, brought up in our meeting, is just the importance of professionalism. And um, so key. Um, we're getting to closer to wrapping up. I have kind of one last, more of an economic question for you. As we record this in the middle of July in 2024, so this will be listened to for probably years going forward. We have in agriculture, in every business, we have a lot of ups and downs. There's the good days, the bad days. There's the good years, the bad years in terms of financial. I'd like to have you talk a little bit about, at your age and my age, we can remember the 80s, and we had some pretty high interest rates, and we had to navigate those interest rates. And I think now, um, in 2024, we've come off of really low interest rates, and we're in that 6 to 7 as we record this now, 8 on some line of credit interest rates, and probably going to be facing some refinance stuff in the next few years where interest rates are going to be significantly higher, and a big impact on the bottom line that we maybe hadn't seen the last number of years. Any comments on just managing debt, managing, capital acquisition, purchasing, that kind of stuff? Any thoughts on what people need to be keeping in their mind on that?
Yeah. Every operation is different, and everybody has different risk tolerance levels and so forth. Just in our businesses, I guess, in agriculture isn't our only business. We have business interests that aren't important, but everything I'm involved in, we keep a really close look or eye on our balance sheet. My dad said gave me a percentage that he said was always safe for him. We've maintained that and haven't breached it ever. Just that ratio. And if we needed to back up or had to do something different, that we always had those cards to play, if you will. And things do get difficult at times, and you maybe have a regret on this or that, but the balance sheet is a big deal. I would say, if I was going to give anybody advice, keep it on the conservative side. Is there times where you can boost it through to get, for an expansion? That works, but long term, liquidity is a big deal. Everybody's going to learn that through their business career. Some hard lessons from time to time, that just happens. That's just the way it is. But try to keep a good plan so you have some triggers that you can have a backstop, I guess. And when I started at 17, it wasn't long after. This was in early 80s. We started in 78, but 82 was a high interest period time there. But if I look at the graph now, I'm going, well, people are talking about this interest rate. My very first farm loan was FHA loan, was 8.25%. My dad just couldn't believe we could get fixed rate money for that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, yeah. And that's what it was. And it was a great program. We paid it off right like we were supposed to in the 5-year window they gave us. It was a livestock facility. Worked out good. Interest rates, but it allowed us to keep that fixed. And interest rates did go to, the 21% for prime. But look, just have your listeners go back and look at the graphs. That graph went straight up, and it did not, just like any graph, it does stop at some point, and it does not stay flat. Most times it comes right back down, and it was a spike. So how long was that window when it was extremely high? in perspective, it was very, very, very short. It went straight up and came right back down. You just got to be positioned to get through those times. And I assume that we could maybe see something like that again potentially, but I guess that's my comments on that.
No, that's awesome. I think it's, you know, it's like you said, you know, it's different for everybody. It's looking at that debt to asset ratio. Um, you know, as Mo Russell used to say, who was always a mentor of mine, he always said you need to always try to bulletproof your balance sheet. It doesn't mean that it will always be bulletproof, but the goal should always be to try to bulletproof it, you know, and there's going to be, like you said, those times when you take that extra risk, you buy that farm or you update some equipment or you do some things in a growth mode that maybe takes those ratios and skews them a little bit, but those need to be calculated decisions for a reason, right? And
Right.
with that said, my last question to you is just to explain kind of anything that you think the listeners can take with them, kind of a final takeaway. What should they stay focused on? You know, it's about success, but it's about your life and kind of why we do what we do, and just kind of get your take on kind of making sure we understand our why and we focus on the important stuff.
Oh, you asked some really good questions, Chris. And I just want to take a moment too to just thank you for doing what you're doing in the farm community, opening up these visionary lessons for farmers. It's really neat, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you.
And what you're doing and what you've established. The farm community is quite small. What are we down to 1.5% of us are in agriculture anymore? I think that alone brings opportunity, just because, and that it's going to take, you're going to need to be good at what you do, and you're going to need to be a student. You're going to need to be sharp to stay in it. Even it's still competitive, even though there's so few of us in some ways. But I guess consolidation will continue in my view. It's going to be very important for you guys to, for our young listeners here to build good networks, build good relationships, neighborhoods, your church, your families. That's just pivotal to a good business. So keep those things strong, work at it. You're not on an island by yourself. That's just not a good place to be. It takes a network to build customers, to build vendor relationships, to build friendships. My business network is probably, beside my own family, is one of the most precious things I've got.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's about the relationships, isn't it? It's about the connection and the purpose for what we're doing and why we do what we do. So, great conversation, Tom. I really appreciate it. I knew it would be a good conversation too when I met you. I'm like, you have to be on Dad's Wisdom. So, I knew it would be a great conversation. You should be super proud of your family. You should be super proud of your accomplishments, and your dad did a good job. You had a good professor, and I think you'll continue to be a great professor in your guys' operation. And I did a 19 minutes on our other podcast a while back on the transition from leadership to mentorship, and I think we all eventually go through that transition too, where we go from leading the organization to mentoring the organization. And I think, those are all things that we all want to aspire to get to where we can not only be the leader, but also be the mentor eventually. So with that said, Tom, phenomenal conversation. Really appreciate it. And one of these days, maybe I'll bug you again for a Dad's Wisdom Part 2 or something, but
well, it's been a pleasure, and I it's an honor. So thank you. And agriculture is a great business. It's a great thing to be a part of, and go with that.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.
God bless. God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks everybody seriously for listening. Again, as I say at the end of all these Dad's Wisdom, if you have a dad, a grandpa, somebody that has been impactful in the operation, somebody that can share wisdom and share their experiences so that we can all benefit and all kind of be there for each other. Reach out, let us know. With that said, thanks again. We'll catch you again next time on the Ag View Pitch.